You are what now, 85 years old, Norman Pattis?
No, 385. I'm working on the Methuselah Award for longevity. I've long since past my sell-by date and live now by grace, and I'm grateful for every day.
Are you lisping on purpose? Did I hear a lisp in there at all? Was that a lisp?
I hope not.
Okay, maybe it was the headset here on my side. Good morning, Norm Pattis, famed attorney, and now becoming very famous comedian. I had the pleasure to see you at your performance. How do you feel after that performance on stage?
I've got tens of thousands of hours on my feet in a courtroom, very few in stand-up comedy. So I'm learning to work an audience. I've performed since at the Stress Factory in Bridgeport, since I've seen you last. And so the learning curve is steep. The development of material is an ongoing work in progress. I've decided that I'm going to call my tour the Redemption Tour, because what I mean to do in my comedic career is give an account of my life in the law. I think it will shed a light on the cases I've taken and on the potentials for the human spirit. I'm looking forward to it. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that audiences will come to understand not just me, because I'm simply one guy in the world, but themselves in the world around them. I say this in particular because of, like, the Alex Jones case, for example. People have strong and powerful feelings about them, and they have strong and powerful feelings about me for standing next to him. Neither Alex nor I are that interesting. What should be interesting to people are why they have those feelings. And I think comedy will give them access to part of themselves that they don't have. By laughing at others, they'll get a window into their own soul. But before we go much further, I've been on several radio shows already this morning, and it's only 9:30. Today is Good Friday. And I got into the office early this morning to look at the Daily Missal, the book of readings that the Catholic Church publishes in order to get people prepared for the year and the day. And I spent an hour or so thinking about what Good Friday means, and I came across the most lovely language in Psalm 31. And I'd like permission to read it, Mike. I'd like permission to read it, Kevin, because I think that if I need to hear it, you
Let's
do,
go.
and
I'm gonna
others
I'm
do.
gonna put the camera only on you, Norm. So I'll be off camera. You'll be reading it. I'll be right here listening. I can't wait.
So consider the Psalms. These are ancient prayers believed to be authored by King David of Israel, and written and recorded and saved and cherished now for millennia. Before there was an American republic, there were the Psalms. Before there was an enlightenment in Europe, there were the Psalms. Before there were the Middle Ages, there were the Psalms. Before there were ancient Greek and Roman contributions to our civilizations, there were the Psalms. And the Bible remains the most published book in the Western world. And in it are the Psalms. And in it are Psalms that are every bit as relevant today as they were to King David in his hour of his need, because they speak to the human spirit. So I would like to read to you from Psalm 31 from the Roman Catholic Missal, the reading for today, Good Friday, a day in which we're called to remember an historic and amazing event, the crucifixion of Jesus, an event that still gets debated 2,000 years later, the most written about man in human history. And why? Ask yourself why. Go ahead and scorn the cross. Go ahead and scorn his presence in our society. But the fact of the matter is, we're still talking about him for a reason. And, I've read my way through several libraries, tried to understand this. And if there's an argument about him or the inspiration of scripture or theology that I haven't read, I'll read it. But none of the arguments mean anything. What means everything is David's writing. In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your justice, rescue me. Into your hands I commend my spirit. You will redeem me, O Lord, O faithful God. For all my foes, I am an object of reproach, a laughingstock to my neighbors, and a dread to my friends. They who see me abroad flee from me. I am forgotten like the unremembered dead. I am like a dish that is broken. But my trust is in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. In your hands is my destiny. Rescue me from the clutches of my enemies and my persecutors. Let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your kindness. Take courage and be stout-hearted, all you who hope in the Lord. Now, those words are powerful, powerful words, and they struck me with a particular vengeance this week, given my unique circumstance in the world. But this is just one circumstance among many. All of you have your own. But consider this week. HBO, I think it is, published a new documentary on Alex Jones and Sandy Hook. And the result is I'm flooded, well, not flooded, I'm getting hate mail again and people wishing me well or ill and condemning me. And so I needed to hear these words. For all my foes, I am an object of reproach, a laughing stock to my neighbors, and a dread to my friends. And they who see me abroad flee from me. I am like the unremembered dead. I am like a dish that is broken. Sometimes people are broken dishes in public. Sometimes we're all broken dishes in private. There are those of you out there who've had broken marriages. There are broken relationships, strained relationships with your children, who find yourself in tragedy and driven to your knees, as the most powerful man in Israel was, the King David. A man who, fell in love with, the wrong women, arranged the death of of her husband so that he could have her, and was nonetheless a servant of God, and nonetheless a man driven to his knees to call on God for mercy. And so I think on Good Friday, we're reminded of the infinite love of a broken servant, or not of a broken servant, but the infinite love of a servant broken by the world, and the power of that love unto death to redeem us all. Do what you want to do, trying to reckon it in terms of theology and science and whatnot. But ask yourself the following question: why, 2,000 years later, are there still books written on Jesus of Nazareth? Why are there still churches dedicated to him? Why on this Good Friday will hundreds, if not millions of thousands, if not millions of people in the United States and elsewhere turn to churches to remember an event that's implausible on its face, but yet is the very staff of life? And I will tell you that there are those who say God is love, and I don't pretend to understand it. I'm not a spokesman on behalf of God. I am simply, like you, a broken dish open to the possibility of wonder. And when I read Psalm 31, which I recommend to all of you on this Good Friday, I can't help but think, there's hope in the world and power, and we have forgotten the important things in life. We've lost focus, and that may explain in part the discordant character of our political times. We need a way forward, and maybe the way forward is the way of faith. So I say to all of you, happy Good Friday, happy Easter. Don't take it from my unclean lips, but take it from me when I point to you, to the Psalms, and ask yourself what David saw. And I'm sure to a moral certainty that in your heart of hearts, you see it too. And respond as David did, with open arms of gratitude and faith. So happy Easter, everyone.
What do I do to follow up with that, Norm? I
I'm not looking for follow-up. That was my morning,
you
and,
just
and,
you
you know,
were the closer and the opener and all on that one. I got to tell you right there, you delivered. I appreciate you doing that because I actually did put a few calls to some folks that are in the church, and I was asking if someone wanted to come on and really feel, just feel their emotion. A lot of people on Good Friday, I was just going through this emotion about the life feelings, missing family at the table, through my divorce, through my separations, and we're real talkers. You and I, like it or not, and the people in our lives probably certainly don't like it sometimes, but we put our lives out there. And I think that's our attraction to each other, that we have that genetic disconnection with humans. But we love that going out there. And I think we help people because there's somebody out there right now, Norm, you spoke to, that actually is going to take away what you spoke, and they're going to look at that book and they're going to look at the word because of what you shared today. But
yeah,
I
and it's
truly
and
believe that.
oh, I know it to a moral certainty because I have my own struggles and dramas and whatnot, and I mean, so about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer, I used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I spent a year studying the Roman Catholic Catechism, read through it a couple times, and checked it out, and then when that was done, I was in Rome and I picked up a copy of a missal at the Vatican bookshop, and I don't spend enough time with it, but I got in the office this morning and I thought, hey, it's Good Friday. Let's see what's going on Good Friday. And I did the readings there, and that psalm just leapt out at me, and it leapt out at me, given my
Mhm.
circumstances, given the hatred that is directed to me, toward me in the Alex Jones case. And I know we're all hated by others for whatever reason. And
Does
when
that
when
hurt?
when we
Does that weigh on you? Does that hurt you? That I mean, I feel like that you're sensing more of that than I did when I first met you. It's some of that energy.
so. Um, I think that
It's a bad question. We can skip it. I don't mean to.
no, it's not a bad question. There are no such thing as bad questions. There are simply awkward and revealing answers. And so I choose to be awkward. I simply choose to be awkward and revealing.
Uh,
I've started to experiment with stand-up comedy, and I've been around the country, LA. I'm going to Atlanta soon. I was at the casino the other night, Bridgeport. I've done a little bit here and there. And I've come to understand the comedic vocation as an act of self-reflection and a humorous invitation to others to consider the barriers they put between themselves and the world. And so, Freud writes about jokes in the unconscious and the sort of discordant jars that humor can produce in the human psyche. And so, my jar is, after 30 some years of running through the law like a bull in a china shop, is suddenly to be imprisoned in the image of myself that has been projected into the world. And so now I'm that guy, and when I approach people, I can't get through that barrier. And the result is becoming a prisoner of a form of success. I wanted to be that notorious lawyer, and my notoriety now imprisons me. From time to time, I'll encounter people who will see beyond that and see past that. And I view those encounters as gifts of grace and the ability to walk away from the image the public image that exists of me. And so I am undergoing something like a reckoning now, as I enter the final stages of my legal career. I look back and I'm like, wow, what have I done? I was looking through the computer the other day, just we have the directory, and there are thousands of people in crisis that I have represented, each in each case passionately pouring my all out into the world. And the result is that I have come to be perceived in the world as the sum of those parts. But yet there's more. And I think that's the appeal of the Psalms. That's the appeal of love. That's the appeal of grace. And I'm so grateful for it. And so as I'm using comedy as a vehicle to expose that part of myself and to sort of make fun of the man that I've become, in order to have courage to be a better and more complete human being. And so comedy is divine in that sense. At its most profound level, it's an exposure of human folly, and courage to embrace the folly in the name of something better. And so I'm having this is the life I'm living, and that's my explanation. As Martin Luther said when he nailed those 95 theses to the door of the Wittenberg Castle, here I am, I can do no other.
and here you are doing what you do best, which is being Norm Pattis. Which you said a couple things there, and of course, I'm intrigued. You did want to be this attorney. You wanted that role. And was it from the beginning, or did that evolve over the time as you got to become the character known as Norm Pattis?
I don't know who that character is in
Well,
the
I'm sorry,
eyes
but
of
the people
others.
do. I mean, you do know
Yeah,
there's a
no, I get
public
you. No, I get
persona.
you. But I want to be clear
Yeah,
on that. I'm not.
yeah.
I'm real. I think.
No, I can
Yeah,
attest to that. You are real.
yeah. So I was an accidental lawyer. Grew up in the school of hard knocks, as I've told you. Ended up as an accidental college professor. I didn't know I was a good student. Went to college, started winning fellowships and awards and whatnot. And before you know it, I was teaching at Columbia University and invited to a life of scholarship and so forth. And that wasn't enough for me. And so it ended up bouncing around and went to law school. And the things that preoccupy me now have preoccupied me since I was a kid. Why is there a world rather than not? What is the purpose of human life? How do we best live? And, I tried moral and political philosophy and did that for 8 to 10 years, read my way through the library and taught and realized there was nothing that I really had to teach people. Um, Started having kids and realized that teaching was no way to support a family. Went into the non-teaching world and was unhappy with the impact I could have on it as a non-lawyer. So went to law school and was preoccupied by the following. Immanuel Kant, the great German philosopher, once said that two things fill them with wonder: the starry heavens above, and that is, and anybody can experience this. Walk out into a starlit night sometime and let your defenses down and look out and realize that there's an infinity of space out there, seemingly, and you're but a speck within it. And then consider all of the time that has passed before you, and the time that passed before humans had minds to comprehend the universe. We're but floating dots in the infinity of space and time, but yet we're dots imbued with significance. So that's an awe-inspiring thing. Then ask yourself how you gain your sense of orientation in the world. That's the moral law within concept was astounding. For me, an equally astounding thing is the fact of our lives in public together and how it is that we distinguish between power and authority. So my life as a lawyer has been dedicated to understanding the rules by which we give the state power to limit liberty and affect the lives of others, and standing on behalf of the individual human spirit against those forms, or in the alternative, since they cannot be undone, making sure that when they affect a person, they do so by right according to law. And I've been inspired for years by St. Augustine's City of God. There's the city of man, which is a world of compromise, pain, and infinite sorrows. And there's the city of God, which we are summoned to hope for and perhaps inhabit. I'm no theologian, so I can't say. But in Augustine's theology, there was the notion of the fall, or that is that we are all broken dishes. And so a criminal defense lawyer's job is to stand between the individual and the state. And I've said before, and I'll say again, there is no a mob quite so terrifying as a self-righteous mob. And so it's been my calling to stand next to an individual, regardless of what he or she has done, to say to the public when it seeks to punish them, to hurt them, to move them from one place to another, you can do so, but only if you do so according to the rules. And that's come at a tremendous cost, Kevin. And I think that I've been drawn to these folks because as a child I was fundamentally alone. My father disappeared when I was quite young, and my mother left emotionally and never returned. And the result is I lived a childhood filled with terrors and found ways to satisfy those terrors that were sometimes maladaptive. One of them was by developing a very strong and assertive personality, which is in some respects terrified those around me. It's cost me 2 marriages. My longing for love is deep, but the manner that I have of coping with my fears is more than most women can handle. Maybe all. I guess time will tell. And so as I undergo this reckoning, I have to ask myself, as the psalmist said, for all my foes, I am an object of reproach, a laughing stock to my friends, and a dread to my friends. And I've been a dread to several wives now. And it's not something I'm proud of. I am a broken dish. And so going public with being a broken dish in a comedic forum and in interviews like this is part of the redemption tour. And it may be that I remain a criminal defense lawyer passionately engaged in defending the terrified little boy standing beside me. It may be that with grace, I'm able to find a different way of moving in the world. But that's the crossroads I'm at now, and why I'm so happy to give this interview.
And it's thank you for sharing. And this is like the exclusive. And I know that you've been a friend and in a way that amazes me because when you talk, you're just so intelligent. And I just keep on saying to myself,
Keep saying
why is
that.
this? Yeah, why is this guy talking to me? Why? But one of the things I can connect with you, and somebody else out there is going to connect with you and me. I went through the same thing in a different
We
way.
all do.
That's
We all do.
I and we all do exactly. This is not. I don't want anyone to think like this is specific to certain people. This is everyone battles every day. I mean, sobriety for me, Norm, I don't think I sent you the video. Paula just sent it to me when I was actually at my worst point of alcoholism. And I'm going to send it to you. I'm keeping it private right now, but it's me going through some really bad stuff. And it was every day of my life. And you were coming on my show. You didn't even know.
No, I
So we
didn't.
don't
But
know.
yet, here's the deal. A good friend of mine recently celebrated their 36th year of sobriety, and this person has become, in my view, a spiritual giant because what they've learned to do through confronting their terrors and their trust in a higher power is to let go of things that drove them, that twisted and warped them and sought to destroy them. I'm lucky. I mean, I partied in high school. I mean, there were times in high school that, I'd wake up in a parking lot thinking, how'd I get here? And my parents didn't, or my mother didn't really care. And for whatever reasons, the alcohol bug didn't bite. But my longing for, and my longing for connection and for love has often been misplaced. I have every bit the alcoholics need for a sense of place, and every bit the need to struggle with drives that can be self-destructive in the way that an alcoholic does. My view that AA, for example, is said to be the only known effective way to confront alcoholism. And several friends of mine are in AA, And when I see and discuss with them the character of their lives and their dedication to to a higher power, I see that it's a spiritual path. And I think that we all, Augustine said, love is, sin is love of the wrong thing. We all have a hunger within. Alcohol served some, the lust for power and fame, and glory and combat served me. But some lusts can twist a spirit, and some lusts can drive others away and can drive us from ourselves. And so I think everyone, as the psalmist said, is a dish that is broken. And the fortunate among us are open to the possibility of grace. And in the Judeo-Christian tradition, that comes from the heart of a loving God who is forever present, but always just out of view. And we're summoned in faith to see the obvious thing, the hope, faith, hope, and charity that is right before us. Nobody does it perfectly. St. Paul said, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But, on Good Friday, we are inspired to remember Jesus' selfless love that he gave unto death. And in giving of that, he summoned new life. And I think that's possible for all of us. I genuinely do. And it has been for centuries. You read the lives of the saints. A good friend of mine, Pete Atkinson, is involved in something called the Merry Beggars. And he's producing radio broadcasts on the lives of saints. And I've been fortunate to be consulted on the St. Augustine piece because I studied with an Augustine scholar in graduate school for several years and know a little bit about St. Augustine. The lives of the saints are extraordinary. These are ordinary people who found themselves in extraordinary need, and when they were broken and driven to their knees, their needs were filled with divine love. Now, divine love. They were neurotics. They had psychotic this. They had psychotic that. I don't think so, folks. I think there's a larger world out there, and we're summoned to live in it. We live in a universe. I mean, no matter how smart you are, suppose you've got an IQ of 200, and then there's a guy with an IQ of 80, right at the cusp of mental retardation. The genius says to himself, I see so much. The retarded person says, if they say it in a same time, that no matter how much you see, you're in the same position as the person who sees but little, and that is you don't know how much you don't know. And being open to that is being open to grace.
You're a pretty graceful guy, Norm Pattis. Um, listen, I appreciate your time. I'm sure you got a busy Friday. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on Good Friday. That was a really, really amazing gift to the people that are going to be able to hear this. To me, thank you so much for doing that. And try to connect me with the gentleman you tried yesterday. I didn't get the
Yeah, I'm
email.
still working on
I
it.
got my way.
Everybody's so
Sure.
busy. We're all broken dishes, struggling with so much on our
There it
plates. But
is.
I'm working on it, and I'll get them to you. All right.
Where can people find you? Tell everyone where to check you out.
Well, I'm not in a nut house yet. Hey, so let me give you a piece of humor that I heard out in LA not long ago. Guy gets on the stage and he's looking slovenly. He's in an old hospital gown. Hey, have you heard about the guy who escaped this morning from the LA mental institution? Everybody's silent. Good. So he talks about his struggles and his failures in life, and he says, I can't get in any programs or colleges or anything, but I did get into the John F. Kennedy assassination fantasy camp. And you're thinking, wait a minute, what? There are fantasy camps for everything. That too. It was a great program, and they had really cool swag. I got this John F. Kennedy bobblehead doll. His head keeps going back and to the left, back and to the left. And that joke is so bad it's good. So, where you can find me at LawPod Daily. Mike Boyer and I do a podcast every morning at 8 a.m. It's wherever podcasts are stored. It's on YouTube and everywhere else. Join us on YouTube if you will. We've reached the point of being able to monetize it. If you're looking for legal help, give my law office a call. It's the Pattison Paz in New Haven, Connecticut. And I'm all over the internet. So I'm just a struggling sinner in search of grace and an instrument of it to some. Be open to it and it will find you.
Norm Pattis, there it is. Thank you so much, Norm. I do have 2 people for referrals, as well as I'll be in touch later on. Thank you so much. There it is, Norm Pattis. Off to wherever he goes next. I don't know where he's going next. Maybe he's going to LA. Maybe he's going to Florida, Spain, Italy. I don't know where Norm Pattis is going, but he's going somewhere. I have had the privilege of being, I'd say someone that just got to know Norm generically in a sense. And I knew his public persona, like some people might have known even my own public persona. And so judging as he's talking, I'm like listening. I think most of us can relate to how that feels to be someone that's in that lonely island, right? Of realization of, this is the creation of what we've done, and this is who we are. And I sort of, at least that's my interpretation, that and talking and really pairing it up to Good Friday and the word of and the spiritual guidance that has benefited through God's love is exactly what has struck me. I talk about it publicly. Asbury University is where I found and met God. In fact, I started to use an exercise just within the last 72 hours, actually, where I'm actually using an exercise to pray. And in this praying exercise that I'm doing is I'm putting myself back in that room at Asbury, and I can't begin to tell anyone that was worried about me in any sense of the word. I have found a place where I know I'm connected. I think that's what Norma's talking about. And so I'm trying to tie it into that. I just think it was a great pop on interview. I think me and Norma have had a destiny to work together. I think it's in some way, some capacity. You'll see us doing more stuff together. I love supporting him. For some reason, he loves to support us. And the Prayed Up Network is just fortunate to have him give us his time when he does. So go and check out Norm Pattis everywhere. We'll make sure we attach the links to this and other episodes. This is a Be Better podcast with your host, Kevin Allen, right here on the Prayed Up Network. Probably going to pop out a few more of these episodes today. I don't know. I'm just feeling in the mood to talk right now. So when I do, I'm going to talk. And you guys just have a great Good Friday. It's a great Friday to have a good Friday. Go out and enjoy.